Now, here's something about Paul Wilson. I was thinking to myself, how do I talk about the range of his work in a way that we can get a little bit of it in, and yet not leave people who have not read a lot of it because there's so much of it to read. And I thought, what is the secret history of the world?
Well, Secret History of the World came to me late in my career. I started out writing science fiction, 3 connected novels, and then I wrote The Keep, which put me on the bestseller map, and that became an international bestseller. And then all my novels after that were all, I thought, standalone novels. And then a publisher around late 80s asked me to do a sequel to The Keep. And I said, well, okay, I'll see what I can come up with. I came up with a very, very, very long novel, so long that I had to cut it into 3 novels. And during the course of that, I brought in characters, obviously from The Keep, but I also brought in characters from my follow-up novel to The Keep called The Tomb, which was unrelated, and then another novel called The Touch. And somehow they all wove into this huge 3-volume sequel. And I started wondering, maybe I had been connecting them all along. And then I did some medical thrillers. I did 3 of those and got tired of them very quickly. And The Heroic Internist and stuff like that. You always need a conspiracy. They were all pretty much formulaic and the same, and after 2 I didn't want to do any more, but I had another book on the contract. So I've been bugged now for 14 years to bring back the character from The Tomb, who was Repairman Jack. And so I needed to write a medical thriller, but I had this high-tech thriller, and then Jack was perfect for it. And I was wondering how do I get out of this 3rd medical thriller commitment? And then it occurred to me, I'll do the high-tech novel, I'll put Jack in it, and then I'll have him hired by a doctor. And then I can say, hey, it's a medical thriller, because it's a thriller and it has a doctor in it. Well, I don't think I fooled anybody, but the thing is they liked the book, so they published it. And the reception was so good that I wrote a 3rd Repairman Jack novel, and that was going to be it. But then I had such fun doing that I wound up writing 15 of them, and he took over my career. But along the way, I started pulling in little bits of my other novels as I was doing the Repairman Jack series, and all of a sudden I realized that everything is sort of connected. And I like to play with history, and like in my novel Black Wind, which a lot of it is set here, I don't do alternate history, but the attack on Pearl Harbor takes place just as everybody knows, but the reasons it happened were different. Hiroshima is bombed at the end, but the reason they chose Hiroshima are not, for public consumption. And that's the whole idea of the secret history, is that all these events happened at the time we know, and the events are the same, but all the subtexts are different. And that's for me, that's a lot of fun to play with. Make everything look the same on the surface, and make everything different below. And so and I didn't really have a name for all this, but I started doing a young adult novel that was sort of connected. And the young girl, the 13-year-old girl, who's a fascinating character to me, I don't even know how I came up with her, but she was into conspiracy theories, and she keeps saying there's a secret history of the world. And I just fell in love with that phrase. I said, oh, I love that. So I started listing my books as the ones that were all part of that, as part of the secret history. And there's something like 20, 22 novels that all fall into the secret history. And now, now that most of them are all in print and in ebooks, people are starting to read them, starting at the beginning with The Keep and reading it all the way through till the end of the Repairman Jack series. And so this is really like the cornerstone of my life's work as a writer is The Secret History. And I'll be adding to it. I'm not through with it, but it sort of ties in most of everything I've written. Not everything. I'd love to tie in everything, but some things just don't fit. But that's The Secret History.
Secret History. Well, because this whole idea of an underlying truth flows through so many of your books, as you say, almost all of them, I'm kind of wondering, at what point in your life did you start to realize that nothing is what it seems? Were you a skeptical child?
Yeah, I think people have believer genes, and some people don't have believer genes. And I think I was born without a believer gene. I was raised in a pretty Catholic family, and church going every Sunday. When I was in public school, I went to catechism class, and then they moved me over to the Catholic school. And I was just basically I could not accept it. I was taking everything, even as a kid. I'm just saying, really? So I had the good fortune of going to a Jesuit high school, and the Jesuits are sort of the intellectuals of the church, and they would teach us to question things, and I just, that's all I needed. Ask the next question, and I just questioned myself right out of the Catholic Church. Thank you, Jesuits. And that, in a sense, that has informed all my work and all my life, is asking the next question. That's a phrase that Theodore Sturgeon, the science fiction author, he used to sign his books with a little Q with an arrow running through it. And he always said, you know what that means? I said, no. He said, that means ask the next question. Always ask the next question. And basically that's why politically and philosophically I'm a libertarian, because I question everything. And I question the church, and then the next thing you got to question is the government. And anything the government does, I would question. And it's great as a writer because you can come up with all sorts of neat conspiracy theories when you're questioning why you're doing this. And the why is what's really important in a conspiracy. Not so much what happened, but why it happened. And I don't believe in all those theories, but they are fun to play with as an author. And lots of stories just pour out of those, asking the next question.
Which of your historical reimaginings, not the facts, as you've always pointed out, but the or the underlying causations, have you ever surprised yourself by then finding out that you were actually closer to the truth than you thought when you were imagining it to be fictive?
Well, Pearl Harbor was the real eye-opener to me. I read, I wanted to set, it was a big family saga, horror novel, war novel, and which was one of the problems why I never really, it sold to the publisher, but it never sold to the public because nobody knew where to put it on a shelf. But I started researching, I wanted, a pivotal point is what happens at Pearl Harbor on December 7th, 1941. And I started reading about it, and I came across a book called At Dawn We Slept. And it had all sorts of questions as to why Pearl Harbor was not given, the code machine to break the Japanese diplomatic code. If they had it, they would have intercepted the declaration of war that sat on Secretary of State's desk, for hours and hours while they were bombing Pearl Harbor. And I dug deeper and deeper and deeper, and I kept finding all these, unexplained. Why were certain ships moved out just before the attack? And why was one of the Department of Defense intelligence officers who was saying they're going to attack us, they're going to come out of the north, and it's probably going to be on a Sunday morning. He's on record in Congress saying this, when he said when everybody is off guard and off duty. And he was shipped out. He was taken from intelligence and put on a cruiser and sent out into the Pacific. I mean, why? Why? Ask that next question. And so that's when I started getting really interested in toying with the underpinnings of history. And I did it with, some people said I did it too soon, but I did it with 9/11 in a book called Ground Zero. And everything happens as, the Arabs take the planes, they ram them into the tower. But the why and the who was behind it and what their agenda was is all changed. And I manipulate that into my secret history. So it's fun.
Yeah, it's fun to read. I am filled with anticipatory grief about the last of the repairman Jack. So let me ask you to answer something that you had your character Frank Slater ask in Slater's Sand Plantation in Maui. Give you the opportunity to set the record straight once and for all when no one can threaten, cajole, or coerce you into retracting anything. What would you like to say about the repairman Jack?
Well, Frank was dead when that was read.
Yeah,
it was supposed to be read after he was.
I know. Well, I don't. Yes, but I'm just talking about repairman Jack. He's done. Yeah, and also anything you want to say about it.
I mean, I'm saying goodbye to Jack with 3 novels that take place in his first years in New York City. And he's 21 years old when it starts. It spans a couple of years. He's 21 years old. And for me, it's like writing about a new character, because this guy is completely naive, and he's just learning the ropes and finding out, what his strengths are. And, for the 3 books, I think he's a whole new character. But that's it. The publishers asked me to do some more books on him, and I said yes, but that's it. Those 3 books are done, and moving on from Jack. We had a great run, but it's time to say, sayonara.
Well, do you think he'd have any famous last words?
Ask the next question.
That's pretty good. Well, how about you? What are you moving on to now?
I'd like to do more young adult. I did 3 young adult novels. I'd like to do more. I like writing for that audience. I would like to do standalone novels. I don't want to really get involved in another series.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I don't know if anybody has any questions from the audience, but we really appreciate it. I was a late comer, I have to say, people turned me on to him not so many years back, but it's like I don't have enough time to catch up with it. So, and we're all really appreciative of all of your many, many, many wide-ranging novels.
Well, thank you for having me here. It's been great. It's my 3rd trip or 4th trip to Hawaii, and this was my first luau.
Anyway.
I'm not a fan of poi, I gotta tell you.
No, me neither. All right, well, thank you.